few points, by the way. Each of those 6 categories in LEED have prerequisites, multiple prerequisites, just to qualify for LEED. 3 of those 6 have prerequisites that are coming from the contractor. So again, you can't qualify for any kind of LEED at all unless you've got those prerequisites in. Also, the subject that we're covering tonight obviously is very involved, very complex. The LEED manual itself is 450 pages long. We're certainly only going to be able to touch on a few subjects tonight, but I've got some examples for you. Specification components are not optional. They must be read as compulsory by the contractor. We talked about that earlier. It's not optional. You have to have them when you ask for them. LEED documentation doesn't deal well with a wish list. You'd like to have certain things. The LEED is very specific, and I'll give you a few examples of exactly what they have to have, and you have to be able to submit them to the Canadian Green Council when the project is finished. If you don't have them, you don't get the points. And by the same token, if it's not well specified, how is the contractor going to price it? It's all got to be in the specifications. Defining the requirements in the specification also reduces the risk to the contractor and clients. They need to know. Here's a few examples of the type of submittals that are going to be required. Waste audits, waste reduction. I'm going to go fast because I've got a lot of material in a short period of time. Waste tracking record, recycling content record, and a lot of these are monthly. You have to submit these every single month. Recycling content record, regional materials record, certified wood record, indoor air quality management plan during construction as well as pre-occupancy. Once it's done, you need to do another indoor air quality management plan. I'll give you 3 examples and we'll walk through them for how to identify what the requirements are. One is going to be site prerequisite number 1 for erosion sedimentary control, construction waste management where you're diverting 50 or 75% from the landfill. I lump them together, the same things apply for both. And indoor air quality for construction indoor air quality plan during construction and testing before occupancy. First off, as I said, LEED's got to identify very clearly what the submittals are. The designers and specification writers, when they're looking at going for the points, need to look very closely at these and make sure that they get documented in the specifications. The way to do that is when the points are first identified that this is what they're going to go for the project. This is a sample of an erosion and sediment control plan. Photographs. You need to take photographs at 3 different stages during the project showing the actual installation. Keep in mind that with LEED, you initially do the calculation of the points. You submit to the Canadian Green Council that this is what you intend to do. When you're all done, you have to demonstrate to the Canadian Green Council that you actually did what you said you were going to do. And that is the point for all these submittals. And it's a massive amount of documentation depending on the project. MR 2.1 from the Canadian Green Council for construction waste management 50%. Provide a list of the project's waste management firms or other waste receivers and document amounts and types of waste received by providing waybills or letters from waste receivers that indicates amounts recycled, salvaged, or landfills. This takes place throughout the project. You're going to have this with each and every monthly drop. If you don't get this, you won't be able to show that you've had the percentage that was requested under this particular point system. Same thing applies for 2.2, where the percentage has been increased to 75%. Here's an example of some of the submittals you've got to have. Submit monthly listing of recycled materials and waste for landfill. Retain all the waybills or letters from waste receivers indicating the amounts of recycled, salvaged, or landfill materials in case you're audited by the Canadian Green Council, as well as photo pictures of recycling areas during the course of the construction. And all this has to go in the specifications, and the contractors have to provide it. And you, especially, you can't do this after the fact. You have to have these at the time that that's being done. An example of the waste management plan that has to be submitted from the contractor, identifying what percentages of the materials are going to be reused, recycled. Again, the photographs clearly showing on the site that's being collected and sent out. This is an example of a monthly listing of waste disposal recycling submittals, where it's identifying the material, the total weight of the product, the weight recycled, salvaged, diverted, weight disposed of, and the recycling and/or disposal facility. You have to have a table like this and keep track of it as you go through the project. Otherwise, how else are you going to be able to demonstrate that you met the 50 or 75%? Sounds easy when you look at it in the manual. The reality of actually proving that you did what you said you were going to do can be quite challenging. And it's not overly cumbersome to be able to do it if you do it as you progress through the project. There's a standard letter template for construction waste management signed by the architect, contractor, responsible party, indicating the amount of the waste, how much was diverted, and the amount in metric tons. And it's going through everything from wood, cardboard, metal, garbage, and where it ended up going. Construction indoor air quality management plan during construction. There's many sources in here from adopting indoor, preparing a plan, and that's going to come from the contractor as to what, and his subtrades, is what they're going to do for indoor air quality to protect materials and the type of materials that are going in there, controlling the pollutant resources, interrupting contaminant pathways, and the sequence of installation to avoid it being damaged or getting wet or contaminated. And that's all contained within Canadian Green Building Council requirements for those points. Similar process for testing after occupancy for the indoor air quality. As I said, unfortunately I have to run through these relatively quickly. Examples: follow the Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning National Contractors Association Indoor Air Quality Guideline for occupied buildings under construction. It's already been documented what procedures to follow. Lead submissions that are going to be required are to submit 18 photographs, minimum of 6 photographs taken on 3 different occasions, showing that they actually did take the protective procedures. Cover materials that can be adversely protected by moisture and seal duct openings. Here's examples of the photographs taken on site, and I said, this is just good building construction. It's not overly expensive. It's just, you have to realize that this is the procedure you've got to follow, document it, because you've got to be able to submit it later on. If you can't prove it, you don't get the funds. I'll go through, there's other examples of construction submissions, material information sheets specifically for 7.17.2 for reduction of heat island effect, non-roof and roof, recycling content, regional materials. Here you can use a straight line tool from wtimeanddate.com in order to do the calculation for the distance traveled from the materials from the fabricator to the construction site. Rapidly renewed materials, certified wood, low emitting materials, and there's a whole gamut. Even on an incredibly small project as doing this room, for instance, you could have 60 submittals for everything from paint to adhesives to caulkings. It doesn't take long to come up with a huge amount for the low VOC materials. And it's not just the liquids, you also have the carpet, the composite wood that you're also concerned about, and the adhesives in them.